Gentlemen, I think we're going to get started. Good morning. Welcome to Mentsch at Work.
The last one?
The second to last one.
Oh, second.
And I did want to make a couple of announcements. So first of all, today's the second to last one. We are going to wrap up the laws of interest today. And then next week, we're going to talk about heter iska, which I know some of you have been looking forward to, which is this allowance for interest in terms of doing business loans and business investments and things like that. So when is there an allowance and how does that work? That's rabbinic in nature. Okay. So that's this week and next week. In terms of another announcement that I wanted to make, and then of course after Pesach, as many of you know, I think already, we're starting a Taste of Thanks, which is basically the laws of making blessings. So how do you wash your hands? How do you make a bracha hamotzi? Which blessing do you make on which items? Which I think is fairly simple, but then what happens if you have a soup that has a few different ingredients in it? What happens if you have a salad, there's a few different ingredients in it? That's after Pesach, we're starting that one, yeah. We're going to start it like mid-April or something, or end of April, whatever it is. I'll look to exactly, but you'll start to see emails from me because I'm going to advertise it to the general public as well. Yeah, okay. And that's going to take this same slot on Sunday mornings. Now, in terms of the laws of Pesach, because this is kind of like my weekly section when I do halachot, in other words, laws. So this is usually when I'll do like my pre-holiday class, like I did my pre-Purim class, my pre-Chanukah class. For Pesach, first of all, I wanted 2 weeks to be able to do 2 classes. Secondly, I wanted to be able to do it, and I wanted to be able to finish this class. So it wasn't going to work to do it on Sunday, so I'm going to be doing it, I think, on Thursdays. So I think starting, because Rabbi Enoka finished this class on Thursdays available, I think this Thursday and next Thursday I'll do a 2-part series on the laws of Passover. You can stay tuned for my email, but that's most likely when I'm going to do it. This Thursday we'll get started, next Thursday we'll continue. We'll talk about cleaning for Passover. We'll talk about selling your chametz. We'll talk about the Seder, the crucial things to hit during the Seder. Yes, you can spend 6 hours throwing frogs at each other and whipping each other. What happens at the Sephardi Seders? They whip each other? I don't know. They like to hit each other. Splashing water at each other, right? They whip each other with parsley or with onion. With onion. Or if you're at the Akavan's house, sometimes with cactuses. Don't ask me what's going on here. But all of that is bonus. We're going to talk about the crucial details of things you have to hit. We're going to talk about how you make matzah. We'll talk about other laws of Passover. In other words, things like starting to count the Omer and things like, right? All these sorts of things. So we're going to do a Pesach crash course, basically. And of course, always starting this Thursday. I think we're going to do it Thursdays at 7 o'clock or 7:30 or something like that. I'll do an hour this Thursday and next Thursday, I think. Stay tuned in your email. And it's going to be called Demystify Pesach, just as we do with all of our other classes. And in addition to the laws, as usual, we'll also do some spiritual insights into the holiday of Passover, as usual. Okay, so we can make it relevant to our lives. But for now, let's get into Mentsch at Work, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mentsch at Work. For this week, we are picking up where we left off with the laws of interest. So last time that we studied, which I think was a few weeks ago, because last week we skipped a class, the week before there was Purim, but last time that we studied, we started getting into interest, and we discussed some of the things you're not allowed to do in terms of borrowing and lending with interest. Yes, there's an obligation on the person who borrows, person who lends. You're not even allowed as a Jew to be a guarantor for a loan that involves interest. Okay, beautiful. Let's talk about some things that we wouldn't think of as interest, but actually are interest, shall we? For example, what about doing a favor for someone while they're lending you money? In other words, you're in the middle of a loan, and somehow, in the business world, I think we usually call this one hand washes the other. Right? Like, oh, you lent me money, therefore, yeah, I'll give you a ride to the airport, no problem. Or what about even words? Like I can say something nice to him, but I don't usually say, like, I'll say something nice about him in public. Right. Is that considered interest? Can these things be considered interest? Let's see. So Halachic tells us like this. A lender must take care not to benefit from the borrower without the borrower's realizing it during the entire time the lender's money is in the borrower's hands. So I lent Uziel money. Lend him $100. He's got 30 days to pay it back. Within those 30 days, I have to make sure I'm not getting any extra benefit. That Uziel is not going to do me any extra favors or extra benefit that I'm going to get from Uziel. That's not going to be. It may not even be expressly said for the loan that this is because I lent him money, but it may be implied. It may be part of it. So you got to be careful in that field. Let's see.
So they would be sort of interest-like.
Exactly. This is what we're talking about. Today's topic is interest-like things. What?
Yeah, well, we also say
quid pro quo, yeah, all this stuff. The above applies even to favors which the borrower would have done for him even if he had not given him the loan. Why? Because it appears that the lender expects the borrower to forego the difficulty because of the money he owes him. So let's say Uziel might always take me to the airport, right? But I say to Uziel, hey, here's the $100 you wanted me to lend you. By the way, to be unrelated, right? By the way, you think you have a chance to take me to the airport later this week? What's he going to say? No, right? Nevertheless, if the borrower is aware of the favor he is doing the lender, it is permitted, provided that he would have performed the favor even if the loan had not been given. However, the favor may not be a matter of public knowledge. Okay, so we said, if I do it and Uziel doesn't realize, so it's kind of like a subconsciously he's doing it because of the loan, that's not allowed. But if there's like a very clear above ground favor, possibly going to taking me to the airport is a very clear one. Could be not clear enough. So that would be allowed. However, it cannot be something public. It cannot be like, oh, there was a big loan that happened, and there was a big favor that was done, and everybody knows what like nod, nod, wink, wink. It can't be that kind of a loan. If generally the borrower had not been accustomed to greeting the lender, I'm a jerk. I never say hello to Uziel. Right? Sorry, the opposite. Okay, I shouldn't use that term. Uziel never says hello to me, but I lent him money. Of course he's going to say hello to me every time he sees me, right? He is forbidden to do so later after receiving the loan. Similarly, it is forbidden for the borrower to honor the lender in the synagogue or elsewhere if he had not ordinarily been accustomed to doing so.
That's interesting.
So in other words,
I think he would have to be at least courteous.
Yeah. Only if it's regular courteousness that he does usually, yes.
Wow.
So let's say, for example, let's flip the tables. Uziel lends me $100. And like I said, I'm a jerk. I don't usually say hello to Uziel in shul. I'm not allowed to all of a sudden start saying hello to Uziel because I'm feeling friendly towards him because he lent me money. Not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to get up and give him my seat. Oh, I see Uziel walking the shul. There's not enough seats, whatever. Or we're standing in line at the kiddush and he's way behind. Oh, go ahead. Not allowed to do that just because he lent me money. Why? Because that could be translated and misconstrued as interest. The only reason I'm doing it is because he lent me money. So therefore, I'm repaying the loan and I'm repaying courteousness and I'm repaying favors. These little tiny favors. The above and similar situations are placed in the category of ribis devarim. Okay, so all of these things are called ribis devarim. They're not actual ribis. Ribis means interest. This is interest through speech, and that is forbidden. This is implied by the expression any form of increase. In the Torah, in the verse in Deuteronomy, it says neshech kol davar, which means an interest of any increase. The Hebrew davar, called davar, translated as form, is related to dibur, speech, davar and daber. Davar means form, means thing. Davar means thing. Anything that is interest. But daber means to speak, right? So it's the same word. So thus implying that speech may be also be forbidden as interest. By the way, some people say, I don't think there's an actual halachic issue with this, but it's definitely good to avoid it. Some people say that it's actually, you're not even allowed to say thank you.
What?
When Uziel, like especially if it's particularly related to the loan, Uziel comes to me and gives me back the $100, I'm not allowed to say thank you, because in that way, he gained also a thank you.
I don't think I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would be offended if somebody
I want to say something.
did say thank you for a significant.
I want to say something. Why would you be offended?
Because I think it's just common courtesy.
Yeah, no, it's much more than common courtesy. You use the term offended. Offended. Why would you be offended? Because you expect it, because you want it, because it's something that you consider a necessity in your life for somebody to thank you when you do something for them, correct?
Yeah,
that's a value.
Yeah,
that's a value. So if somebody tells you thank you together with giving you back the money, they give you back the money plus a thank you, they've given you extra.
It's etiquette. And
it's value. That's what we're saying. What we're saying is we're placing a value on it.
There's another way to say that.
I want to say something.
When you give something to somebody, you should never expect it. If they do it, that's something else, but maybe that's what.
Okay, you're getting into a whole different. You're getting into a whole different conversation.
When somebody does something for you,
Well, hold on a second. We're morphing into a different conversation, which I want to say I completely agree with you, with both of you. Thank you is a very, very important social etiquette, and it's very, very important to thank people for what you do. 100%, and Judaism agrees with that. What we're saying here is, don't minimize the thank you. A thank you is also a very, very valuable thing. I encourage each of you, I hope you're never in this situation, I encourage each of you to actually ask yourselves honestly, if you're in a fight with someone, right, you have a very, very hard time saying thank you to them. You have a very, very hard time acknowledging that they did something for you. Why? Because thank you, as much as we throw them out all the time, please, thank you, and it's just common courtesy, it's nothing, it's just the way we talk. There's a very strong value to words. And when you say something, a compliment, for example, right? You know how many I've had couples, spouses in the office with me, that I've been talking to about that are going through a rough time in their marriage, right? And sometimes the whole issue is just that one spouse doesn't compliment the other one. And you ask yourself, why? Why wouldn't what's the big deal? What's the big deal to say you look so pretty today? Thank you so much. You're so great at this. You did such a great job at doing this. You're so good at this, right? Throwing compliments around seems like such an easy thing to do, but actually, when you're in a big fight with someone, right? And couples that are coming to my office are usually, there's a lot of other things going on also, right? Very, very often, that the rest of that fight makes it very, very difficult to pay a compliment to someone. Try it. Again, I hope that none of you are at odds with someone, but if there's somebody that you have a heart, just imagine in your head, maybe a pastime, that you were in a very big fight with someone, and you guys weren't talking to each other. Think of just seeing them in shul and seeing them do, and being willing to pay a compliment to them. It's very, very difficult. In other words, there's a strong value. What I'm trying to say is there's a strong value. It's a valuable thing. Saying thank you to someone, paying a compliment to someone. These things that we call just words are very, very valuable. Just like negative words can be very, very damaging. Positive words are very, very strongly valuable. And therefore, Ribis Devarim is saying, don't minimize what a thank you or word to someone, or a compliment, or a simple, oh yeah, sure, you can have this seat, is. If you're only doing that because of the loan, then that actually is paying back more than the loan. You're paying back the $100 plus something. And if we want to take this back all the way back to the beginning of our discussion about interest, where we spoke about why it's so important that the Torah prohibits interest, not because interest is a horrible thing. In a business setting, it's fine. But in a loan that you're giving to family, there should be nothing expected back, not even a thank you. That's the point we're making. Again, not to say that I disagree with Vicky or with Larry. Saying thank you is a very important thing. So, for example, I've given loans to people and they'll pay it back and they'll say, "Listen, I don't want to thank you because of ribis, but like they'll say something like that, like that they know that you appreciate it, whatever. But to make sure that you, or to say expressly that something is not ribis, that something is not interest." The lender is also warned against ribis devarim. Now, it's not just the borrower who, when he's paying back, cannot pay back with an extra thank you. The lender is also warned against ribis devarim. How can that work? What do you mean? He's the one who lent the money, right? For example, the lender asks. Okay. For example, if the lender asks the borrower, "Tell me if so and so from this particular place has arrived," even though the lender is troubling the borrower only with regard to making a statement, if the latter would ordinarily may have not have given him this information beforehand, and now the lender takes advantage of his loan and commands the borrower because he is presently subservient to him, this is also interest. To a certain degree, it's taking advantage of the other person. I know it. It's not really taking advantage. You're just asking him for information, right? So in this instance, the lender is also required to be very careful. Why? Because ribis devarim can be solicited. It can be the other person can be asking for something, and then the borrower will give it. So let's say, for example, Uziel is paying back his $100 loan that I lent him, right? He's not planning to give me anything extra. But I say to him, hey, we made up that at 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning, Uziel is going to come and pay me back the loan, right? And I say to him, hey, you're anyways driving from South Pass, right? You live in South Pass, right? Pasadena. You're anyways driving from wherever it is. Can you swing by the Stater Brothers that's right there and just pick something up for me, right? You're not allowed to do that. You're not even allowed to say to him, can you just drive up a lake and tell me if there's parking on the block? Even if it's not out of his way. Because this is something that he might usually say, I'm not gonna do whatever. Maybe because he's not in the mood of doing it, or maybe because it's a little bit inconvenient for him, or maybe because he just wouldn't usually do it. But because I lent him money, therefore he'll do it to me. That's something to be careful about.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if you say, hey, I want you to give me like this info, and you know what, I'll take off like the interest off the thing. So don't worry about it. Just give me the money and the info instead of the interest that I was.
Well, in this case, we're saying you're not allowed to give interest.
You're not even
No interest, zero interest. So there never was any interest to forgive.
Okay.
If it was a business loan, which we'll do about next week, a whole different thing applies. Then you could say thank you, then you could do things fine, that's no problem. Okay. Here we're talking about in the category of loans that are non-interest loans, which the Torah prohibits interest
Now
about.
I understand what you mean by the no thank you.
Yeah.
It does feel like if you give someone a loan and you start asking them to do things for you.
Taking advantage of them, so presumably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's different though than thank you, because one I was saying is courtesy and the other is asking for something.
Yes, but expecting the
let me ask
thank you from the
is
person.
who got the
This is-
loan, do they have a responsibility to say thank you? I know that I can't, but
No,
is it
the lender is allowed to say thank you. The borrower is not allowed to say thank you.
the borrower's not?
The lender is allowed to say thank you for returning the loan. The
Okay.
borrower is not allowed to pay back extra, right? So he's not allowed to pay back with a thank you as well. Again, the thank you business, most opinions are like it's not a big deal. It's probably most likely not ribis. But it's something to be aware of, something to be cognizant of. And I want to say something. Look what he's going to quote now. One might ask, there's a verse in Mishlei, in Proverbs from King Solomon that says like this: a borrower is a servant to the lender. Everybody agree with that? This is a famous statement, right? You're a slave to the lender to a certain degree. However, the statement is relevant only when there is a dispute between them, in which the lender says, "Let us judge this case in a higher court," and the borrower says, "Let us judge the case here." In that case, the borrower is obligated to judge the case where the lender desires because of the injunction implied by the verse, "You are a slave to the lender." Therefore, the lender is in charge of choosing where the case is going to be brought to court. Conversely, the verse also implies that if the borrower desires to take the matter to a higher court in another place, the lender need not follow him. However, concerning other matters, the lender is forbidden to take advantage of having granted the loan. That's essentially what this whole thing boils down to. This statement, the borrower is a slave to the lender, is a prohibition from the Torah. Except for certain instances, like when they go to court, who's going to get to choose where to go to court? So then, yes, the borrower has to follow the lender. But in terms of everything else, in terms of just the regular transaction that we're talking about, the lender is not allowed to treat the borrower as his slave. And that means even in the most subtle ways, even by expecting a thank you, as we said earlier, right? But let's talk about even greater things. Do me a favor, do me this thing. In fact, the lender has an extra obligation to be careful about what he asks the borrower for, because lest the borrower start to feel an obligation to do it for him because he lent him money. And again, like with all things, we always need to remember that we're in the category of tzedakah. Because you're in the category of tzedakah, by the way, sorry, let me finish that sentence and then I'll wait. Because we're in the category of tzedakah, there's an obligation to make sure that the loan is given with a full gladness of heart, nothing else expected back. No interest, and nothing that's even like interest. No extra favors, etc. I want to say that even in the secular world, there is a term, no strings attached. Why do we use that term? I'm giving you this, Larry comes over to me, he's desperate for money, I give him $100. Larry, here's $100, no strings attached, just pay me back whenever you can. Right? Why do we use that term, no strings attached? Because the default assumption is that when you give a loan to someone, there are strings, unwritten strings, unspoken strings that are attached. And when you're giving a loan to someone as a form of tzedakah, you have to be very, very careful that there are no strings attached. You are giving this person a loan because you are fulfilling the mitzvah of tzedakah, one of the highest levels of the mitzvah of tzedakah, to give them a loan to get them out of their dire straits. For you to do so and take something in return, whether interest or a favor, unwritten interest, or just swing by this and do this for me, or expect extra courtesy from them in shul, is essentially you taking advantage of them. Yes, you're giving them a loan, but you're expecting something in return, and that's prohibited by the Torah.
And that really is not a very, it makes the person who took the loan feel worse.
It's undignified.
It's undignified.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm reminding us that it's actually talking about a loan that's actually in the category of tzedakah. Yeah. Okay. The borrower is also forbidden to grant the lender any benefit described as tovas hana. So tovas hana is another thing. Tova means a favor. Okay. Hana means enjoyment. So even the enjoyment of a favor, even though the benefit is not money. For example, the lender is an artisan. Okay. Again, Uziel borrowed money from me. I happen to be an artist. And the borrower needs to have work of that nature performed for him. I'm a carpenter, and Uziel needs something done. And he asks me to do him a favor, right? Excuse me. And just, fix his countertops, whatever it is. Though he would not normally hire him for this task, he desires to he's going to hire me, I forgot. He's going to hire me to fix his cabinets inside his kitchen. And he needs to hire someone. So this is not interest, this is a completely separate business transaction. If he would not normally have hired me for the task, and he desires to do so because of the loan that I gave him, this is also forbidden as interest. So this is just what Larry calls quid pro quo. You lend me money, I'll hire you for the task. Not that we're going to involve the loan here anyway. I'm still going to pay you back the $100 fair and square. But I'm also going to hire you because that's nice. You did something nice for me, I'm going to do something nice for you. No, not allowed. It is forbidden to lend a colleague. Okay, let's skip this one.
It's also viewed as
Yes, go ahead.
manipulative behavior. That's why it's not sanctioned,
Because what?
because it's a form of manipulative behavior.
Yeah. I want to call your attention to the name of this class. We call this class Mentsch at work.
Right, exactly.
Being a Mentsch is not being manipulative. Correct, yeah. Okay. Here's a fun arrangement. And we're going to get to a case where basically there's a loophole here where you could get some interest. Okay? What do you guys think? Are you allowed, according to Jewish law, and everything we've learned till now, are you allowed to sell a loan to someone else? So Larry borrows $100 from me, tells me he's going to pay it back by Rosh Hashanah. We have some time. Yes? Maybe I'm flying to Australia, and maybe I'm moving to Australia. I'm making Aliyah, I'm moving to Israel, whatever it is, right? And Larry still owes me the money, and he's fearing square. He's allowed to pay me until Rosh Hashanah, but I'm planning to move in the summer. So I said to Larry, listen, it's fine. I'm going to sell the loan to Yehuda. And Yehuda is going to be your new lender. First of all, am I allowed to do that? Just at all? The answer is yes. I'm allowed to do that.
It's done all the time, but.
It's done all the time, yeah.
It is done all the
Well, that's
time.
in a commercial, this is different. This
Okay, now here's my real question. If I sell it to Yehuda, can I sell it to Yehuda for an extra price? In other words,
No.
well, then you're saying gift it to Yehuda. I'm not saying sell it to Yehuda. I'm saying I want to sell. I have a document. What am I selling? What is the physical thing I'm selling?
A note for $100.
This is a note for $100. Yes, I want to sell the note to Yehuda for $10.
Oh, less.
$10. No, not less. The note is being sold for $10. Then he's going to give me $100 because he's going to make the loan. Right? So in other words, I walk out with $110, but I didn't charge Larry interest. Larry got the $100 fair and square. Larry's still going to have to pay back $100 fair and square. But Yehuda is in the middle of a business transaction. Yehuda, I'm going to sell him a $100 promissory note, and I'm going to make $10 off Yehuda. Turns out it's allowed. Let me read it inside. A person who possesses a colleague's promissory note is permitted to sell it for less than its face value, even before the date of payment. The seller must write on the note, I transfer you this promissory note and the lien which it implies. The purchaser must accept full responsibility for the collection of the note. The seller may accept responsibility only that the debt has not been repaid already. Right? So I accept responsibility that it hasn't been repaid. He accepts responsibility that he's going to collect the loan. Just as the possessor of the note can sell it to another person for less than its face value, he is also permitted to sell it to the borrower for less than the amount originally stipulated. This is where interest comes in. So let's say, so far what we said is I'm going to sell it to Yehuda for more than $100, right? Now we're saying I'm going to sell it to Yehuda for $100. Yehuda is planning to sell it to Larry for $90. In other words, he's going to forgive 10% of the loan. In this way, Larry is gaining interest, yes? Because he got a loan of $100. He also got an extra $10 off. Or he's giving an extra $10 off. This can be very nuanced here, right? Let's see. Based on the above law, it is possible to arrive at a permissible arrangement for a loan of interest. For example, Reuven, we're going to use Yehuda. Larry, we're using Larry. Larry needs money in Nisan. Nisan is actually the month that started this week. Rosh Chodesh is on Thursday, right? And hence approaches Shimon. He comes to me. I'm Shimon. Larry comes to me. Shimon writes him a promissory note, obligating himself to pay Reuven 100 gold pieces in Tishrei. Okay? So I write him a promissory note, obligating myself to pay Reuven 100 gold pieces in the month of Tishrei, which is later. In return, Reuven writes Shimon a promissory note in which he obligates himself to pay Shimon 100 gold pieces in Tishrei. So that Shimon may rest assured that he will not lose anything. Reuven can then take the promissory note which Shimon gave him and sell it to Levi in Nisan for 90 gold pieces.
Because it's for less, not more. He's not making.
1 second. Thus, in effect, Reuven has secured a loan for 90 gold pieces, which is the sum that he received from Levi, on which he is paying 10 gold pieces as interest. How is he paying 10 gold pieces as interest? Since the promissory note that he gave was for 100 gold pieces. However, no prohibition is involved because of the principle mentioned in the previous law, that you're allowed to sell a loan at less or more than market value. And similarly, if Shimon has a promissory note signed by Yehuda, which is the fourth person, which is not due until later, he can sell it to Reuven on an extended payment plan until it is due, with Reuven securing this agreement with the promissory note. Reuven can then sell Yehuda's promissory note at present for whatever sum he offered. Here as well, Reuven is able to receive immediate funds, although ultimately he will be paying Shimon a higher amount. However, Reuven may not compose a promissory note, obligating himself to pay Shimon funds at a later date, and sell Shimon that note for a lesser amount to be paid immediately. This is prohibited even if the sale is carried out through an agent. So, it has to be done in this convoluted manner that we said through another person, but in this way, it could result that somebody ends up getting $90 and paying $100 back. Why? Because they're not really paying the $100 back to the lender. They're paying the $10 back to one person in theory. Like if you follow it all through, they're paying the $10 back to one person and $90 back to another person. I don't know if everybody followed that one. It was pretty Talmudic. But it's not really necessary to know all the details. What is necessary to know is that basically you're allowed to sell a promissory note of a loan from one person to another person, and that price can be higher or lower. And if that may result in the person paying interest.
So when you sell it, you sold it to Yehuda
Yeah.
for $10.
Who am I? I'm the lender?
You're the lender.
Yes. So
So you-
I lent Larry $100
Right,
Yeah.
but then it got sold,
to Yehuda.
but you wouldn't get the $100 bucks.
I'm getting the $100 from Yehuda.
You bought it, you sold it for 10, and then you're still.
No,
gonna-
I sold it, let's say, even for 100, for the regular price.
And you're still gonna get it back.
I'm still getting 100 back.
So
Right.
You now made 200.
Oh, you're saying in addition to the loan? So let's say I sold it for 10. $100 of the loan he has to pay me, plus $10 of a fee for the note,
Right.
right? And now he's going to go and he's going to collect the money from Larry, and he's going to make his $100 back.
Yeah, but why would he,
But I made
why
$10
would
in
he
the
pay a
process.
premium for
To
no
get
interest?
$100.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
typically-
difference.
Good question.
Larry,
No, there's no
Larry,
interest.
interest is going up.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, there's wars around the world, interest
Discount.
spike.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
can't charge interest. I'm saying,
So
why
you
on an
increase your
interest-free
portfolio
loan?
of debt.
I
Very
understand the less
probably,
than.
because
Yeah, I
he was going
mean-
out of town, not gonna be there to collect it.
So then do it with less
But that
then.
would be a discount. You wouldn't do it as a premium. See, I understand the discount and you could do.
So
a
then do it with
discount.
less then. That's fine. Do it with less
If you
then.
can
Yeah,
get a-
less
if
than
can
you
get
can
a
do.
One
premium,
second.
then
Do it with less then. Okay, let's do this differently then. Okay, let's do this way. Let's do this this way. I lend him $100, right? I then sell that loan of $100 to Yehuda for whatever reason, maybe even for a technical reason. Yehuda sees that Larry has a hard time selling it, so Yehuda's allowed to tell him, "You can pay back $90 of this loan." So I'm now made interest on it. Why? Because he now paid interest on it to a certain degree because what happened is he paid less, so he got $100.
Right.
Or maybe the opposite. Maybe I sell to him for $90, and he charges him $100. So he paid an extra $10 over the loan, but that $10 went to him and not to me, right? That's where we're saying there's a little bit of interest that might be paid. Okay, let's stop today's class here. Thank you all for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next week when we're going to discuss the bigger loophole, Hilchas Iska, the laws of business and being able to do business through a loan, and then you can charge interest and the rabbinic allowance for that and how that works. See you all next week.